At the barbecue, I joked that he should watch the real men do the grilling. Then, this happened. Not all best friends should get married because it might just end in disaster. Why? Because I don't think it sounds normal that a single statement is about to ruin my marriage at all. I told my husband to step back and let the real men present do the grilling, and he got so angry that he decided to do something very hurtful to me. I know it all sounds wild, and you all need an explanation, but I swear that I'm also confused with the current events. My name is Laura, and I'm a 29-year-old event planner and wife. I just got married about 2 years ago to my best friend, my husband. His name is Tristan, and he's 30 years old. Tristan and I became best friends instantly, like from the moment we met 5 years ago. We became friends instantly. Tristan and I started as friends, and our friendship was so real and fun that we became best friends instantly. I never imagined that there would be anything more than friendship between us. I know it sounds surreal, but yes, that's actually the truth. I was so comfortable with our friendship and the dynamics that I just never imagined we would date. And I can say the same for Tristan. Tristan and I were there for each other through the lowest lows. He was someone I could always run to, no matter what, and vice versa. I'm sure you all can get an idea of how compatible we were as friends. Now, I swear that our friendship was the best thing that happened to me, and it seemed like that was the case for him. Of course, you would expect that with that level of closeness and compatibility, even the people around us began to take note. Our mutual friends and family watched us for months and months before they decided to give us a push. What push, you might want to ask? Well, I mean a push to date. People around us felt that with such great friendship, we would have a greater romantic relationship, and that it was only right for us to date. You remember when I said we made no move to be in a romantic relationship? Right? Well, people around us noticed that too. And that's why they decided to get us into a relationship. At the beginning of my friendship with Tristan, I even had a boyfriend. Like, things were serious. And Tristan was seeing other people too. He wasn't in a committed relationship at that point though, because he had just broken up with his longtime girlfriend. But months after our friendship, I was single again, and so was Tristan. I swear that nothing ever happened between us, not even a kiss. But when people close to us started setting us up and leaving the two of us at restaurants so they could give us privacy, something started brewing up. Previously, we'd always been with our other friends and barely spent much time alone, but when they started setting us up intentionally, that closeness was inevitable, and so we started drawing closer to each other. Now that I look back at that moment, I can say that I regret giving in to that temptation. I'm sure Tristan does too, because we really tried to not overstep the boundaries. But seeing that everyone else was rooting for us to get together, and people were telling us we'd make a power couple, we had no choice but to let our guards down. Funny thing about life, right? We like to pretend like other people do not influence our life choices and decisions, but that is only a lie we tell ourselves. Whether we like it or not, most of our life decisions are influenced by other people. The same thing happened with Tristan and me. We made a bold step that ultimately ruined our friendship. I use the word ruined. I know you all must be confused. I mean, I would be too. The question is, how did our friendship get ruined? Isn't it ultimately supposed to get better? That's what everyone expected, and to be honest, that's what we expected too. But the truth is, not every compatible friendship would be a compatible relationship. I know some people say a boy and girl can never be just best friends. This is an ideology that many people have, but my friendship and marriage with Tristan has taught me otherwise. Not every friendship must turn into a romantic relationship. Some people are just meant to stay friends forever, while others can hook up once or twice, but a real healthy relationship can never come out of it. Not to divert, but I know what I'm saying, so think twice before you make that decision. When you are not compatible with someone, even the tiniest things can get on your nerves. Like, you can flare up just by a word or two that comes out of the person's mouth. The same thing has been going on in my marriage with Tristan. In fact, this thing caused the end of our marriage and brought us here to begin with. I mean, if anyone would have told me I would be recounting how my marriage literally fell apart in just 2 years, I would have laughed in their face and called it nonsense. But here I am, sitting in front of my computer at 2 a.m., back in my parents' house, instead of being with my husband. Sorry for the deviation. I just needed to point out some very important information so you all can understand the dynamics of my marriage. So like I had pointed out, Tristan and I eventually gave in to the temptation even though we tried our best to resist. We started spending more time together, going on romantic dates, kissing, and then boom, we did everything couples did. Barely 6 months after dating, he proposed. I said yes because, at that point, I had no reason to refuse. Our friends and family even felt like we took too much time. Everyone believed we were a perfect match, so of course, we believed that was true. Crazy, right? I can already imagine some of you frowning and asking, weren't there red flags? I mean, that's what people always say when a relationship goes south. They blame the couples for ignoring the red flags. But the thing about relationships and love, in particular, is that the red flags look like green flags until it's too late. You only see what you want to see, and that's fine because it's not your fault. I am going to say this even though I might get a lot of backlash for it. I did not love my husband. Yes, I said it. Please let me explain myself first. When I say I did not love him, I mean romantically. I did love him as a best friend and a companion. I saw him as a person that I could always count on to make me laugh, and vice versa. But we were rushed into something none of us prepared for. I mean, just 6 months of dating romantically, and we were married. We weren't even given time to process it. Of course, nothing seemed wrong. No arguments and no cheating. How could there be? We were best friends. He knew what made me happy, and so did I. Most of the time we spent together was filled with what we did as friends, more than what couples were expected to do. But all this went downhill the moment we tied the knot. Oh my God, you guys cannot imagine how much of a rocky marriage Tristan and I have had. We knew each other as friends, but we spent the whole 2 years of our marriage trying to know each other as romantic partners. I don't know what went wrong on his end completely, but I can give an account of what I felt went wrong according to my own perspective. There was just too much judgment in the marriage, and that made me sick to my bones. First of all, we never spoke about personal life before tying the knot. We didn't even get time to ask each other what life as a couple would mean, how many kids he wanted, and vice versa. We never got to have those important conversations, and that was a huge problem in our marriage. I hated the fact that we didn't have a lot of things in common when it came to planning our future together. After getting married, the both of us instantly had a wake-up call. Like, we got the biggest wake-up call of our lives. We had to start speaking about things we ignored prior to marriage, and damn, it was hard. I began to see that the man I married wasn't really the man I wanted to stay married to. You know the thing about friendships where you never care to judge your friends, right? I'm sure most of you would understand what I mean. When we have friends, we like to tiptoe around the truth and support them in situations regardless of their fault in it. I know I do that a lot. I like to stick by my friends and I do not judge them. But that's different in marriage. You need to point out things you do not want. For example, I realized that I didn't like how friendly Tristan was. Yes, that sounds crazy, but it's the truth. I hate how friendly he is with people, like the fact that he never listened to me when I told him to stop talking to our other female friends. I'm not a jealous woman for wanting that, I just didn't like that at all. I also hated the fact that his finances weren't exactly where I wanted them to be. I like to refer to myself as a soft girl, and a woman who likes a luxurious life. I'm not apologetic about pricey things at all. I have a love for the finer things of life, and I wanted to be able to afford whatever I want. I am an event planner, and Tristan works at the bank. He earned 4 times higher than me, but that still doesn't place him on the pedestal I want him in. After our marriage, I instantly realized that I wanted a richer man. When we were just best friends, I didn't give a hell about his finances. I knew he had enough money, and he gave me gifts when needed, but I never cared that much. But when we got married, it dawned on me that Tristan was rich enough to have a nice car and house, but not rich enough to take me on expensive trips several times a year or get me my favorite designer items. I also noticed that he wasn't rich enough to place me on a monthly allowance. And that was a big problem. Don't misunderstand me, please. I'm not trying to say Tristan is poor. In fact, he is very far from poor. He earns enough, but not enough to get me a $2,000 bag. Like, do you understand what I mean? He earns enough, but just not enough to give me $1,000 for shoes. So that's what I do not like. I love luxury and everything that has to do with it. I want to be able to go shopping without having to check the price tag. And I want to be able to afford as many Birkins as I want. But with Tristan, it all just felt like a silly dream that was never going to come true. Right from my childhood, I'd always imagined getting married to someone filthy rich. It wasn't just my childhood fantasies. It was something I looked forward to making reality. But after getting rushed into marriage all of a sudden, I soon realized that the man I married wasn't filthy rich, and that made me judge him so much. In fact, it got me irritated. On top of him not being filthy rich, Tristan is annoyingly obsessed with saving for the future. Like, what freaking future are you saving for if your wife is not happy in the present? Like, does that even make sense? There was this time he got a fat paycheck after a particular job he did for his boss. After that, I decided to ask him for some money to go shopping. I asked for a reasonable amount, but he only gave me half of the requested sum. According to him, we needed to save for the future, since he wasn't sure more special requests would come and didn't want to spend too much. He told me I already had enough clothes and that half of the money I requested had to be enough for what I asked. That really got on my nerves. And sometimes, when I asked him to list the things he was saving for, he would talk about our children's tuition and whatnot. For God's sake, what children was he talking about? I had to keep asking myself this, because I knew I had no plans of having children yet. If possible, I don't even want children. So it was baffling to think that he wanted children and was already saving up for their future. How could you save your money for children that weren't here yet when their mother was in need of the money? Fine. He would argue that there was food at home and that I had everything I wanted. He would buy me gifts and take me to dinners and parties weekly. But I just needed that fast, expensive life. A life that wouldn't cost me anything if I woke up one morning and decided to stop working. But in the long run, I discovered that wasn't going to be the case in my marriage. There was just no compatibility in our personalities or vision. Tristan is more reserved, intentional, and was extra careful with money management. I am the exact opposite, and I believe in living in the moment and forgetting about the consequences. There was just no excitement. Yes, I believe that our marriage has less excitement than our friendship did. And I hated that. The thrill just wasn't there, and soon enough, I started regretting the marriage. I didn't find Tristan's desire to plan finances sexy at all. I wanted a man that could afford to make financial decisions as recklessly as he wanted, and yet wouldn't go broke. Tristan wasn't that man, and that was another reason to regret marrying him. Oh my goodness, our friendship has literally disappeared. Things just went sour, and what made me more upset was the fact that Tristan tried to pin the negatives on me. At some point, it was visible to both of us that our marriage just wasn't working, so we decided to have a talk. Well, Tristan was the one who proposed we had the meeting. At first, I wanted to refuse because I was extremely afraid of confrontation. A part of me just knew that he would bring up my reckless demands, and I hated that. I tried my best to run away from the meeting, but Tristan put his foot down and told me that it was non-negotiable and that we had to have the talk urgently. I finally gave in to his demands and decided to see him so we could talk things out. Tristan, first of all, made it clear that he hated the fact that our friendship had suffered a great deal since our marriage. I thought we would grow stronger and our friendship would shine even more, but it seems like things went the other way. Those were his exact words when he spoke to me. I still remember it like it was yesterday because, honestly, those words really pierced my heart. He asked me to list out the things I had issues with and why my attitude towards him had changed. I didn't waste any time after that. I hate the fact that you would rather save for the future than say yes to my demands as your wife. I also hate that you barely have any regard for my personal preferences like partying and purchasing luxurious items. Those were some of the things I pointed out, including some stuff that I would not mention yet. To my greatest surprise, when it was Tristan's turn to list out the things he did not like, he pointed out the fact that I liked to ask for overpriced items that cost thousands of dollars and were unreasonable. He accused me of not having a vision for the future and being obsessed with useless trends. And then he called me selfish for changing my attitude towards him just because he didn't give in to my reckless demands. He even went as far as saying I had no emotional intelligence and that I liked to think about myself only instead of taking note of how he included me in his future and present plans, yet I never did the same. His words really pierced my skin and made me sick to the bones because I just find it hard to understand why he would say such hurtful things to me. I felt attacked and rushed because he made me look stupid. I honestly believe that he basically called a meeting just so he could accuse me of those hurtful things. I did not agree with a single thing he said, and I felt like he was just trying to pin his limited financial capabilities on me. I would like to ask you all a very important question though. Do you think that I am at fault in any way? Do you agree with what Tristan said? Because I just do not agree, and I told him the exact same thing. I tried to walk out, and then Tristan suddenly got angry and said, "This is the exact thing you always do. You said things you hated about me, and I did the same thing, and now you're walking out. We're here to see how we can do better and adjust our characters to fit each other's perspective. Yet, you want to walk out." Those words made me even angrier, so I walked out. I refused to talk to Tristan for nearly a week after that day, because I just couldn't bear the thought of being called selfish, because I am 100% sure that I am not selfish. He tried to speak to me severally, but I ignored him, and at some point, he gave up. If you were in the same space with us during that time, you could tell from a mile away that we had unresolved issues, and that there was a lot of tension. It got so bad that even after we started speaking, things were so awkward, and our conversations were short-lived. I expected him to apologize to me, because I believed that he was the one who hurt me with his words. But that never happened. At some point, our friends and even family noticed that there was a fire on the mountain in our marriage, so my friends planned a 5-day get-together for our friend group. I knew deep down that Tristan and I had to be the reason for the trip, but I had no choice than to attend. I didn't want people to start talking, especially our female friends. Some of them had gotten married to rich men, and some were dating men that made questionable money, like the kind of money you were scared to spend because you had no explanation for it. I honestly felt like in the friend group, I was the one with the least successful man. Yes, I felt that way, and I don't think that's a wrong ideology. I have eyes, and with the comparisons I made in my head, I had the least designer shoes and bags. So what is the essence of the marriage if I wasn't living my dream? I didn't want people to laugh at me, so I decided to go for the get-together, and Tristan was also convinced to go. The first 3 days were drama-free until the last day. I mean, Tristan and I were good at hiding our issues and acting like nothing was wrong until I made a statement at the barbecue. Everyone was there with their partners, and we were supposed to grill ourselves for the experience. The females in the friend group were present with their husbands or boyfriends, and the males were present with their wives or girlfriends. Things were going well until the men decided to do a grilling competition where they tested each other's abilities to see who was better at grilling. I was utterly surprised to see that Tristan wanted to compete too, and he even went as far as boasting of winning. That got me really embarrassed, because I believed that the other men who must have more money and are not workaholics like him would know more about grilling since they definitely went to more parties, unlike Tristan, who attended fewer parties due to work. I didn't want him to lose and then automatically embarrass me, so I decided to save both of us the stress by saying he should step back and let the real men do the grilling. All I said was, "Tristan, just step back and let the real men do the grilling. We both know you don't grill that well." I meant it as a joke that would convey meaning to him so he would step back, but Tristan's facial expressions instantly turned dark and angry. Everyone noticed the bad blood, stopped what they were doing, and watched us. I could tell that Tristan was embarrassed and angry, but I prayed silently and hoped that he would just control himself and not embarrass me. But to my utter surprise, he said, "This is just another reason to file for divorce from you. You're honestly the worst wife any man could have. I regret proposing in the first place." And then he walked out. I was so embarrassed that I wanted the ground to open and swallow me, but none of that happened. I could see the judgment on everyone's face. I could tell that they took his words seriously and probably thought I was a lesser wife. Just like that, everyone left one by one and left me to myself. When I got back to our room, Tristan was nowhere to be found. I didn't have the courage to go back home, so I went to my parents' place. I was too embarrassed to stay for the last day of the get-together. I also discovered that Tristan blocked me on all platforms. I was so devastated that I didn't know what to do. Some of our friends said he was filing for divorce, and that's why I panicked. But can you believe that 4 weeks later, he sent the divorce papers to my parents' place? Yes, I am going through a divorce now and my marriage is over. I tried everything, and even my parents and our friends tried begging him, but he said our marriage drained him, and that I was too selfish to stay married. I lost my husband and best friend, and now all that is left is memories. Please, I need to know. Was I the cause of my own misery?